I ran one of these as my everyday drive car for 4 months. It's the Geely Starray EM-i, and I was genuinely impressed by this vehicle and how well-rounded it is. This is the MY27 update, which does sound a little bit premature. It's $1,500 more expensive, so $41,490 before on-road costs, but for that you get a few changes under the skin, including towing preparation, the inclusion of a charging cable, and importantly, a bigger battery, which boosts electric-only driving range to 136 kilometers in the WLTP cycle. That makes it very competitive with rivals such as the BYD Sealion 6, the Chery Tiggo 7 Super Hybrid, and the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. Today's video, we're going to do a standard review of this vehicle, run through all the features, interior, practicality, talk about how it drives out on the road because it has changed just a little bit, and give you our final verdict at the end. So leave your comments down below and let's get into it. Chasing cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by Budget Direct. The Starray EM-i hasn't changed very much inside, though this vehicle does differ from the one I ran as a long-termer with the black interior. Upholstery is vinyl, which is a little bit sweaty, but the seats are both heated and ventilated. And for 2027, although it's still 2026, these seats pick up massage functionality as well, which is quite good. That's only in the top spec Inspire, and I was surprised by how powerful it is. It also brings me quite neatly on to the controls of this vehicle, which on the face of it can be a little bit clunky because there is a lot of reliance on the touchscreen, but Geely's system is relatively straightforward in a lot of respects, and the touchscreen is responsive and bright, so that ameliorates some of the issues we often have with touch-based systems. I'll show you now. You've got a vehicle settings tab and you've got a shortcuts mode here, vehicle controls, driving, lights, and driver assist. I feel like this is quite logically laid out with level of importance falling away as you go lower. Also, you may have caught this if you watched our long-term review of this car. There's a software update that came along that meant you could anchor your favorite settings to a drive setup. And you can do that by just pressing one of these two buttons. I always forget which one it is. It's the top one. We can turn that off. We can make all of the annoying beeping safety systems go away. So I think that shows that Geely is willing to put in the effort, pay attention to what Aussie customers want. The multimedia system itself now supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, both wirelessly, and it's connected to a 16-speaker Flyme sound system. It's actually quite good, gives relatively good renditions of music, not maybe as good as you'd expect of a 16-speaker system, but better than what you'd get at a similar price point in a legacy rival like a Toyota RAV4 or a Subaru Forester, where you're getting a base model vehicle for this price. Speaking of, although it doesn't feel luxurious in here, and I don't think Geely wants to put forward a luxurious image like, say, JQ and a Motor do, it actually feels way higher quality than something like a base model Toyota RAV4 that I spoke about before. Lots of squidgy materials up on the dashboard, up on the top of the doors here. And although the seats aren't quite comfortable enough and still lack lumbar adjustment, you do get a full-length panoramic glass roof that's also opening. So that's a nice touch. Storage is really good. This little mezzanine spot down here, easy access to USB-A and USB-C charge ports, plus a 12-volt socket. You have two cup holders here, a storage bin there, and a wireless charging pad. So I will have a little whinge about the cup holders, and I think this is actually quite funny because this is a cup I got on a Geely launch event, and, well, it doesn't fit in the Geely's cup holders. So I think that's room for improvement there, along with a few other aspects like the seat comfort. But on the whole, the cabin of the Geely Starray EM-i does actually a really good job for the price. The best part of the Geely Starray EM-i, though, by far, is the back seat. It is huge back here, and there are a couple of nice touches. You can see I have lots of knee room behind my driving position, a good amount of headroom under this nice light-coloured headliner and big sunroof, and I also have a huge amount of toe room even in my big boots. Also, there's a completely flat floor in this car, which is not something you see in your regular combustion or hybrid SUVs. It's much more associated with electric vehicles, and the bench is super soft and squishy. It's so supple in terms of the cushioning, even though the leather, or the faux leather, the vinyl, is a little bit sweaty on hot days. The backrest is really nicely reclined, so I'm very comfortable here, and I have really good visibility over the top of these seats with a slight stadium arrangement. This vehicle also has tints on the rear window to stop any harsh sun coming in the side. We have a pull-down armrest with a nice squishy part here that isn't ruined by plastic cup holders, which is good to see. We also have two air vents, two USB charge ports, 1C, 1A, map pockets, plus a few really nice pieces of attention to detail in the back seat that means you don't feel like a second-class citizen here. Squidgy materials up on the door tops, squidgy here on the armrest, a nice metallic feeling door pull and knurling on the window switches just like the front seat, which makes you feel like this car is offering more for the money that you're paying than you might expect. Styling we'll cover off briefly. Obviously it's subjective, so you can let me know your thoughts. But I think it's a kind of anonymously handsome vehicle. I like the rear light bar. I like the badging that's spaced out here. There's not a badge soup, not too many different fonts. So I actually think it looks quite good, and you can get it in a cool jungle green color like I had my long-term test car. Power tailgate is of course standard, which is a pretty good inclusion for the price. It opens up relatively quickly to a 428-litre boot, which is relatively practical. You have a split height boot floor, the load lip isn't too high, you have a few niceties like shopping bag hooks, and you have plenty of storage under there. Looks like you could almost fit a Space Saver spare tyre, which might be a good idea if you were going touring in this car because it doesn't come with one. And under that floor is also where the newly included Mode 2 charging cable is stored. The new Starray EM-i Inspire extended range gets a bigger battery, as I mentioned at the start, though the Complete retains the same size battery. 29.8 kilowatt hours in capacity, that's a boost of 11.4 kilowatt hours, and it maintains its lithium iron phosphate chemistry, which I think is good to see. Charging speeds are improved though, up to 60 kilowatts DC for a pretty quick fast charge when you're out on the move. Efficiency is also improved, down from 2.4 litres per 100 kilometres to 1.5 litres per 100 kilometres. In the real world, we actually saw 2.1 litres per 100 Ks on a 180 kilometre loop, averaging 64 kilometres an hour. It's our standard road test loop, and that's pretty much as good as you're going to get out of a plug-in hybrid. We ran it on mostly electric range for the first portion of that, and sadly it only got to 98 Ks before the petrol engine kicked back in. However, it's worth noting that a lot of that was initially uphill and quite high speeds on the motorways, and we've previously seen the Geely Starray EM-i get really close to and actually exceed its range rating. So I have no doubt that this front-wheel drive car would do that when presented with the right circumstances. Servicing is due every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres and will cost you $1,932 over the first 5 years, which is about middling for an SUV like this against rivals, while the warranty is 7 years and unlimited kilometres. Out on the road, the Geely Starray EM-i is easy to like. It does a little bit more than being adequate in a way that makes you think it's really quite good. The ride quality is soft, cushy and comfortable. The response to the accelerator is pretty natural and predictable. The vision out is good. The steering is light and easy breezy. Not really any feel, but then it's a family SUV, not a sports car, so some would say that that's fine. Geely's done a smart thing in outfitting decent standard tyres. They are Goodyear efficient grips, and they mean that this car actually has a good amount of purchase in the wet, through corners, and the limits are actually pretty high. And importantly, it's a very predictable handler. It goes around corners as you wish. There's no strange traits of understeer or oversteer. For this bigger batteried Inspire, the MY27, Geely has changed the rear spring rates. We're told that the dampers haven't changed, and doing the change to those rear springs is more about accounting for the extra weight and different positioning of said weight from the larger battery. But it does affect how this drives a little bit, and in a positive way, either being through the spring rates or the way the weight is distributed. I've noticed a little bit less vertical movement at the rear, which was a complaint with my long-term test car. It felt a little bit soft and springy at the back, where this car just feels a little bit more tied down, a little firmer, a little bit more predictable. So we really do like to see that. Other good things are the quietude in this cabin most of the time. It really is quite a serene vehicle to drive. You can't hear very much road noise at all. The insulation is really, really good on this top spec Inspire. But there is one caveat, and it brings us neatly into the few things about this car that I see as negatives that I think could be quite easily improved by Geely if it was wishing to put its mind to it. But that does bring me quite neatly onto one of the negatives that I think is something Geely could fix quite easily, as are most of the negatives with this car, and that is the noise of the 1.5 litre petrol engine. It's quite coarse, and you can feel the vibrations of the engine through the steering wheel and through the dead pedal in this car. Now, I must say that is less of an issue with a bigger battery car because you're on electric mode more of the time, but if I step on the throttle, you can still hear the petrol engine kicking in. And Look, it means that you're just going to want to charge this car regularly. You want to be running on electric mode as much of the time as possible to keep it serene and quiet. The other connected thing is the fact that this vehicle has quite a squishy and soft brake pedal. It's easy to get used to when you're up on the move, and if your driving mostly takes in driving to one place with a driveway with easy parking to another place with a driveway with easy parking, I don't think it'll bother you. But when you're parking in tight spots in the city doing parallel parking, the brake pedal is quite snatchy. It's front wheel drive only as well, which means that even though these tyres are pretty decent, you can spin the fronts, and with 160 kilowatts from the electric motor, it's not the most powerful option out there. It's certainly adequate, about 8 seconds 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is the official claim, but you know, we're in Australia and people always like a bit more power and they always like a bit more purchase. So I think Geely could do very well by adding an all-wheel drive version of this vehicle for a little bit more money that still strikes a really good value proposition. The final complaint we come to with the Starray EM-i is the adaptive cruise control system, which I think is possibly one of the worst on sale at the moment. Not because it's too slow or because it brakes too early, but because it brakes too hard, and it's like it gets spooked by seeing a car in front of it. So you approach a vehicle at say 5 or 10k an hour closing speed in the right lane, and then you wait, and then all of a sudden it sees the vehicle, hits the anchors, and sort of pitches the car forward, and it's not very smooth, and I think it probably annoys people behind you quite a lot. Much like some of the other changes Geely has made, such as the customizable drive setup button, which just, you know, really made this car a lot friendlier. You could easily disable the annoying beeping and bonging of some of the safety systems, driver attention monitoring, and lane keep assist, with just 2 touches of a button. I think a similar thing needs to be done with the adaptive cruise control with an over-the-air software update, because that would make this car a lot friendlier to use, a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident, and I think just a nicer vehicle to be in and own. So apart from those few little snags, the Geely Starray EM-i does show a lot of promise, and it is absolutely worth a test drive if you're looking at other hybrids around this price. You do need to charge it. It works best with electric power in the battery, but definitely have a look, have a sample, because I do think it offers a really nice, well-rounded experience, where some of the others in this class offer highs and lows. This car just does a nice, pleasant average of all of the things that you could want from a medium-sized family SUV. The new Geely Starray EM-i is a little bit better in pretty much every respect. More electric driving range, more features, though we would still love to have seen the addition of lumbar support and a little bit more insulation for that 1.5 litre petrol engine under the bonnet. The truth is though, this car has far fewer sharp edges than a lot of its rivals that come from China. A lot of them have highs and lows which average out to the same star rating as the Starray EM-i, where this car is just a nice flat curve of goodness. And I think that is something worth appreciating. Love to hear your thoughts and comments on this car, so leave those down below. Hit subscribe to Chasing Cars if you haven't done so already, and as always, thank you very much for watching.